How did you get started in retail real estate, and how has working as both a broker and developer shaped your approach?
I graduated college in 1991. At the time, my father was a developer in Westport, Connecticut. The late 80s, early 90s were very difficult times where the saving loans banks mostly had loans that were personal. And he got himself in a little trouble, needed help. My mid senior year, he called me up at Syracuse, said, I need help. Can you come work for me? I said, absolutely. I took a week off when I graduated, and I've now been doing my job for 30, 35 years. That's how I got into real estate. I got into retail real estate. When I graduated, I was managing properties on his behalf. He had a few properties that he was able to retain after all that debacle. Before he passed away in 1995, he actually bought the note for two pieces of property on Main Street, Westport. One is the old library, and the other one is where West Elm is now and Gap Kids used to be.
Right.
He bought the note. The owner of that property had defaulted. He became indebted to us. We worked out a partnership where we turned our debt into equity. We got rid of their broker, and I became the broker of records. I was a broker earlier on, but I became a high street retail broker. One of the first deals I ever did was a domain with Steve Greenberg in the old library next to where Starbucks is right now. And so that's where I got connected with people like Patrick Smith and the group of people I ended up becoming very friendly and close with and learning about the ICSC and all the stuff that goes along with it.
So you've been doing this for over 35 years or so.
I've been doing this since I was 21 and I had hair in my head.
How's your overall philosophy changed when it comes to developing and leasing retail streets?
I certainly didn't have like a background education to help me better understand how to develop real estate. Most of what I was good at was seeing things. I brought partners in after my father died to help understand the business, how to syndicate deals, things like that. But I really had a really good understanding of how to take something and turn it into what I thought was best for where it was being developed. So did a lot of historic restorations in our town because there were a lot of buildings that were old enough where saving them made more sense than tearing them down. I really tried to, in learning through the ICSC, create a sense of place. So people not only went to shop somewhere, but they stuck around. So that helped me start to understand the importance of, in some of the shopping centers, not the street retail. So you give people the opportunity to stick around longer, as opposed to going to a strip center, buying something and leaving.
So where was Main Street 35 years ago? I've been in the industry about the same amount of time as you, and it seems like Westport has always been a strong retail street.
It became a stronger retail street when they built the parking to surround the properties. The river actually used to go right up to the back of the buildings. In the 50s, when they built 95, one of the local people took all the fill and filled in the river to create Parker Harding Plaza. So that really started the ability for retailers to want to be there and have the parking to support them. When I got involved in the early 90s, you had your Gaps, you had Banana Republic that had the Jeep in the window, you had national stores going in there. And since I really got involved in 95 through today, while we had a very brief period of time where vacancy rates shot up to 25%, which was right in and around COVID, we've had times when we could push our rents into the mid 120s and times after COVID that we were sitting at 60. Right now, just to give you some numbers, downtown Westport is roughly 500,000 square feet. I guess the biggest difference I should have touched on is in the earlier days, Main Street was just Main Street. And Church Lane and Post Road and Elm Street were pretty much nothing. It was the YMCA, it was some parking. Through Bedford Square and the redevelopment of Church Lane and Elm Street, we really created a kind of a circular, we called it the Golden Triangle. It happens to be the same length as Greenwich Avenue, but you shop it in a circle. If you started at one end of Main Street and you shop the entire thing, you'd end up back at your car. So those developments really helped transform the shopping district, which I think would be the major change that occurred between when I started and today. But again, right now, 500,000 square feet in the downtown area, we're sitting at about a 5.8% vacancy rate.
And is that vibrancy still there today?
It's reflective in the fact that we have very little vacancy available. The most expensive opportunity on the street is owned by Tony Malkin's property, where he's asking $145 a foot net for the old Sundance space. Sundance went bankrupt. Beyond that, I think the highest deal was done with Chanel Beauty. They paid 120 triple net. The building you're sitting behind was a renewal we did with Vince. It also was at 120 triple net. They had a clause in their lease that gave them a 95% of fair market value, so they paid $114 a foot going forward. A lot of the new deals we're doing right now, further to the outskirts of the middle of the street. We renewed Eileen Fisher at a low 90s number. We've rented the old Rye Ridge Deli to another deli that's paying in the low 90s. I do finally have a lease going out on our space at 125 Main Street. So that building, which I'd had a vacancy for a while since Brooks Brothers Women's went bankrupt and then Express Edit just did a pop-up there, we'll have a real national retailer going in there. And then all the stuff surrounding on Church Lane, Bedford Square, and on Elm Street, it's all full. And it's full with a combination of national retailers, regional retailers, a lot of food and beverage, certainly on church lanes. The things that came out of COVID, forget the excess people that we finally had in Westport. Some of the regulations changed as well, where they allowed outdoor dining to be more acceptable, including past the constraints of having a fence around where you're dining. And we were able to close some streets, Church Lane being what I'm talking about, and create a really vibrant outdoor experience. And during COVID, it was phenomenal because no one wanted to go inside. It's continued since then, and we're still getting the benefits of that outdoor dining and that outdoor space to be utilized.
How do you decide if a brand's the right fit for Westport?
So Westport's very different than, for instance, my shopping center in Jersey or even Avon, where I control all the tenants, so I know what I'm missing and what I'm not missing. I seldom try to put tenants in that will just cannibalize another tenant. I think there are synergistic uses that you can have, so all boats rise. So, Westport for a long time, because of the rent and it's constrained just on the street, it had very little food and beverage. We were able to change that with Church Lane. Right now, Church Lane alone has 7 different food establishments, ranging from a Mediterranean Israeli family that owns a little restaurant on Church Lane to the Spotted Horse, which is a staple downtown, which since the day it opened has just been crushing it. And to Mamam, which just opened in a building right on Church Lane. They took it over from a company called Mrs. London's. So that, plus some residential opportunities that didn't exist downtown, created a far more vibrant neighborhood. So, typically people in the past would say, come 7 o'clock, it's like tumbleweeds were rolling down the street, which was true because there was nothing to do past 7 o'clock. That's completely changed now.
As I've talked to a bunch of different people about all the different high streets that are on Brand March, every single one of them, it seems like rents are definitely making it into the triple digits. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Certain streets like South Congress are approaching $250, $300 a foot. Where do you see rents in 5 years in Westport?
I'd love to see rents at $250 a foot. I don't know if we can justify it with sales. We're a town of 27,000 people.
Yeah, South Congress in Austin, yeah, right. Which small market, but just tons of tourism.
I don't see rents going substantially higher. I think we max out at the 130, 140 range. If you want the ratio between sales and rent to make sense. I think the sweet spot right now is probably your $90 to $100 rent. And I think the bigger the space is, the less you end up getting. You can certainly push that number with small spaces that are 1,500 feet.
What kind of value do you see in a platform like Brand March that helps connect brands and landlords and brokers?
I think it's been great, actually. I find that the chats you do with retailers to be very informative and helpful. I like the fact that I now have access to brokers throughout the entire United States that deal with similar product, have control or knowledge of similar brands, and I have a resource now to reach out to that I can talk to someone to potentially attract those tenants to this market. Your platform gives them an opportunity to see what we have in Westport and reach out to us as well. It certainly will help, as you continue to grow, increase the exposure that our town gets and that our street gets and that all the streets that are on your platform get.